Hello, my name is Matt Corral. I'm the design director for a company called Ultraleap. I work with VR and hand tracking and mid-air haptics, but I've also been a digital or UX designer for many years. Now, this video is number 2 in a series of 5 about the UX design process. So if you haven't seen video number 1, go back and take a look. That's the intro to the whole thing, and I'll set the scene a bit. I recommend you look at it. In this video, we're going to be going into depth on stage 1 of 4 in the overall process, which is a stage I call define. So in define, we're really trying to get to our design brief. We're trying to decide the problem that we want to solve with our design. What's it going to do for our customer or our user? So to do that, we need to have a good understanding of them. And this is us doing our homework. We're going to do primarily a lot of qualitative user research, learn about our customers, see where they're frustrated or where there are opportunities to help them, and decide, okay, we can make something. We can make some app or website or product or whatever that will help them and be of value to them. That's what this is all about. Now, it might be that you arrive on the project and this phase has already been done, in which case fantastic. It might well be that you're helping out with this. And in my experience, the latter tends to be more true. There really isn't any design work. It's all about user research, but that is part of the skill set that you'll eventually need to learn. You will want to get the hang of doing user interviews and things like that. If we don't do define and do this well, then the whole project could be going off in a strange direction that doesn't help anybody. So most of this will be user research. There might be a bit of business requirements. You'll be learning about what a company can do to make profit. So there might be a workshop at the start where you'll get together with all the different stakeholders in the project or your client and kind of agree where the project's going and what they want out of the end. It is common for companies to breeze over or skip this step entirely. Why that is, I'm not always sure. Companies are often keen to just jump into making stuff and coding, or they underestimate the value of user research, or they just don't know how to do it well. User interviews and things like that are very subjective. They're very much about having a lot of people skills and being able to read in between the lines and things like that. So particularly for tech companies or financial companies, it can be quite hard to know how to do this stuff, but that's part of your skill set as a designer. So some of the typical activities here, well, the workshop we've already mentioned. We may well be going out and doing user interviews or something like that. User interviews are face-to-face or over a call like this, where we might spend an hour or so talking to our customers about the problem area that we want to learning about their frustrations and what we can do for them and things like that. You could be writing surveys and sending them out. You could be running a focus group. You could be looking into analytics data on a website to see where customers click and things like that. There are a lot of user research activities, and I won't go into them all here. But fundamentally, you're going to be involved and you want to be getting to that solid understanding. So there'll be a lot of information you're gathering up by doing all of this. You might be doing this stuff yourself. It might be you work in a company where there's a dedicated user research team, in which case, fantastic. That's like we have at Ultraleap. But it's not always the case. It's not consistent. So over the course of your career, you will learn how to do this stuff, and you will learn to recognize when it's needed. Don't sweat about knowing it all as you start out, but it'll come with experience. After you've done your user research, there tends to be a phase of analysis where you try to take everything you learned about customers, you try to spot common trends and common frustrations, and you try to boil it all down to where are the real opportunities for us to do something for them here. Above all else, is there a genuine need for this product that's worth us getting into design on? We tend to summarize a lot of these findings into handy little reference guides, because we could be working on this product for weeks or months, and we don't want to forget what we learned in this define phase. We'll have gathered up so much info. It could be hours and hours of recordings and conversations with customers that we can't keep all of that in our heads. So we tend to boil it down to something that gets called a persona, or a short report about user needs that could be just a few pages long. And that's like a handy little cheat sheet. I'll bring one up for you here, where we talk about a typical kind of customer. So this isn't necessarily a real person, but it's an amalgamation of the 5 or 10 people we talk to or whatever. And we give a bit of background info about them. We summarize their frustrations, their behaviors, and the opportunities to give them a product that they value. And this will be a reference guide that you will be using throughout the rest of the project, which is why we try to kind of summarize the most important points into something like that. If your client or company has skipped this phase or doesn't understand the importance of it, don't sweat it. As a junior or new designer, it's not all on you to suddenly change the way everyone works. But as you get more senior, you will get more involved in pushing for this phase and making sure it's done well, because it really will shape the rest of the project from here on in. But do it really well, and gosh, everything gets so much easier from here. The define phase could last anywhere from a week to 6 months, depending on the scale of the project, the amount there is to find out, the people you're working with, the industry, things like that. But by the end of it, everyone on the team, from the big boss to the software developers, should be roughly familiar with the kind of person that you're going to design for. They should know the problem that you're going to solve for them. And they should have a degree of empathy with that person. And that empathy is a really key part of any design work. It'll be part of your responsibility to make sure that this empathy and this understanding persists throughout. So the personas and reminders and things like that are all about making sure we never forget we're designing a thing to solve a problem for this person over here. Next up, we'll talk about ideate, which is where we get into design and we get up with coming up with new ideas.